Good morning, everyone. Jim Clark here at the Synchronicity Sanctuary to share another contemplative focus with you today. And that focus that I wanted to share with you today is in the beginning, I am alone. In the end, when I am fully aware and awake, I am blissfully alone. So, as we journey the human experience, we progressively become more aware of the mystery that we call life. When we turn inward to seek answers to this mystery, we eventually discover ourselves to be the blissful consciousness that is all and everything. We are no longer limited by the illusion of separation. We live in the fulfillment of the primary intention in consciousness, the primary intention that lives in each and every human being on the planet. We are no longer limited by this illusion. We live in the fulfillment of the primary intention in consciousness to fully be itself. All illusion is a game where consciousness allows itself to pretend to be what it is not. And in our context, in the human context, is pretending to be an isolated, single human being surrounded by other human beings in all manner of contexts, geographically, politically, whatever. So you're born into this world and you experience yourself as being an isolated human being, totally dependent on others, your parents usually, for your very survival. And then as you grow and become more aware and cognizant of yourself as an individual, as your ego is developing, you struggle to find ways to belong in the world, where you can fit in, where you can survive, where you are part of the world. And which is odd because you're in the world anyway, but it's the opposite of oneness. It's the fragmentation in consciousness that is here by design, so that consciousness can pretend to be an isolated individual in a world of others. This is where we play the game of pretending who we are not. Although for us, it's a very serious game that we take on completely, because until we have some awareness that this is not really true, that's all we know, and we have no clue. We may stumble across quotations such as this one or whatever, but it doesn't mean anything and we're not drawn to it. Because I know in my experience, before I had an awakening experience, I had no clue whatsoever as to what the fundamental nature of my experience was. And it wasn't because I decided in my mind to start exploring, it was because I had an experience that opened me up to this mystery, what was beyond the physical reality that I was experiencing every day. And this was just part of my evolutionary process. It wasn't because I'm special. It wasn't because I'm any different or better or worse than any other human being on the planet. My ego is an ego, and all egos are egos, and they do what egos do, try to please themselves and survive as best they can. So, in the beginning, I am alone. I wake up, and I'm a child, and I'm growing up, and I learn to try anyway to fit into the world. If I'm in my case, I was going to school, and of course, you try to pass every grade you're in, and so forth and so on. So you're always being tested in this way as an ego to fit in and be successful and to survive in a world of others. And then at some point in our evolution, in our human evolution, after many, many lifetimes, we began to withdraw more and more and start to question that world that's always outside of ourselves, that separation, where there's this world out here where all these other people are, and then there's me. And this world is always out there, and then I'm a witness. I'm watching this world. I'm interacting with this world. I'm talking to these people. So it's got to be real, right? So, I mean, it's unquestionable reality that we don't step out of until we're ready to step out of it. And when we are, we do. And it's not because we do something exceptional to trigger this sudden awakening or whatever. It's because it's supposed to happen. Everyone on this planet is having exactly the experiences they need to fulfill the primary intention in consciousness to fully be itself, to wake up, become aware of the fact, and experience themselves as one source consciousness. Now, in my experience, that was a extremely blissful moment in my life that forever changed the course of my life. In fact, everything in my life was turned upside down, and even though I had the awareness and I experienced the bliss of myself as the truth of who I am, I didn't know how to keep that awareness. I didn't know how to maintain it. And as it began to progressively get weaker and weaker because I wasn't doing anything to keep that and grow that and establish that experience as the truth of who I am, because I wasn't meditating. I started to meditate after that, but I really had very little guidance in how to. Back then there was no internet. Back then you had to buy a book and read it, which I was reading at that time in my life, back in the 70s. And so I did start to meditate, and I did start to have experiences that validated that that was something that I was definitely supposed to be doing. Like I have many visions, and sometimes I would have out-of-body experiences and things like that, but this was not really the goal of my meditation. This was simply signposts along the way that told me that I'm going deeper into the truth of who I am, even though I didn't have that understanding at the time I was having these experiences. Even before I had my awakening experiences, I was introduced to various forms of mastery in my life and experienced that mastery without really knowing why I was doing that. I didn't question why. It was just like somebody said, here, try this out, and I did. So really the mystery is so well laid out for us that until you're ready to wake up and start a conscious journey of meditation and holistic lifestyle, you're not going to do it. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Because when you do wake up, when you have that aha moment and you fully experience the truth of who you are, this is the fulfillment of the primary intention in consciousness to fully be itself through every expression that it has created to do this with. So every human being will eventually have that experience, and every human being is fulfilling the intention that is in all of us, because we are all the same consciousness that simply is. And there's no way to get out of it. Who would want to? After you're having so many years and so many lifetimes as a human being, eventually your mesmerization with that so-called world outside of yourself begins to fade, and you begin to question it here and there. You'll have experiences that will say, how did this happen? Or why am I seeing this as the way I'm seeing this? And the more you start to question things, the more you start to go inside, because there's no other way to go. You've been mesmerized lifetime after lifetime after lifetime with the world outside of yourself, doing everything you can to belong and to survive and to become successful in that world. And yet, when you experience the results of all that effort, that there is no real fulfillment ever in your life. You live it, you do what you do, and then you die, and that's it. And you see this in your friends, you see this in people that you know all around you, and then you see it today with the internet and everything. You see it all over the world, and you see the vast variety of experiences that people are having on the planet today. Some are having horrendous experiences day after day relentlessly. And this is the experience that they need to have to fulfill this part of their journey. And we have all had that experience ourselves. If we are now meditators and we're now much more aware than we were when we first began this lifetime, it's because this is the experience we're intended to have, to fully be ourselves, and to wake up and be blissfully alone, not as an ego, but blissfully alone as consciousness itself, which includes everyone and everything in your life. So there's no exclusion, there's no other. It's just other forms of the same consciousness, and that's all there is. And when you live that, when you have that insight, and you're growing that experience into something that is ever more powerful and blissful, then that world outside can be what it is. It doesn't seem to matter, because whatever that world is, it's the one that's perfect for you. And when you have that understanding, it's easy to include everyone and everything that you experience in your life. It may not be pleasant, it may not be something that you would want to have if you had a choice, and yet somehow inside yourself you know that it belongs. It belongs in your experience because there's something in that for you, and you're very attentive to all these things too. You're looking at it as a consciousness unfolding itself and growing in the awareness of who and what we truly are. And this is the human journey. It's a human journey for all human beings in this planet. And forget trying to understand what somebody else's experience is. My teacher reminded us constantly that you cannot understand why somebody else is having the experience they're having, let alone understanding why you're having the experience you're having. So this quest to understand, which is very popular in many circles in the human experience, is one that's full of more illusion. You know, the closer people think they are getting to understanding someone or something, it's really just another story. It's another story to make them feel like they're getting somewhere in life that they needed to get to. And that's about it. We're just trying to evolve ourselves, whether we know it as that or whether we experience it as that. Everything we do is in the pursuit of the truth of who we are. Whether we're egomaniacs, whether we're trying to have power, whether we're trying to be rich, whether we're trying to be hiding from the world and live a quiet life, it doesn't matter. Whatever that experience is that you're having, even right now, if you're watching this, it's an experience you were meant to have, or you wouldn't be here watching this. I find this many times. I've in this world of today, where we have so much information available at any one time, what shows up for me is what shows up that I need to have the experience of in order to become more fully aware and awake myself. So that's it. That's the game, and this is the play that all human beings have in the journey of the human experience as we progressively continue to evolve and get closer and closer to a constant experience of being blissful consciousness. Today I'm having much more of that experience than I ever dreamed I would ever have, and it's by virtue of the process of illumination, the process of spiritual evolution. It's not by a process that my ego had anything to do with ever. So I know that consciousness is orchestrating the show, and I know whatever that show is, it's one that I'm meant to have. So I'm no longer plagued by questioning, am I doing this right? Am I doing that wrong? Am I supposed to be doing this? And so forth and so on. There's an awareness within me these days that tells me which way I want to go, because it's in alignment with where I am. And that's simply it in a nutshell. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. In the beginning, I'm alone. I'm alone in the sense that I'm an isolated human being having a full-on fear-based experience of life. And when I am more aware and awake, I am blissfully alone because I'm no longer separated from that world outside myself that's part of my experience as it is supposed to be. And there is so much more to who I am and who anyone is on this planet. And you have that awareness and you go through life much happier and content because you know that everybody is doing the same thing that you are. They're evolving to that fulfillment of that primary intention. That's it. That's the play. And that's the goal, if you will. That's the eventuality that everybody is headed for. And all you can do is help them along the way whenever they want some help along the way. Other than that, live your life and be blissful. So that's it for today. I'll be back probably in 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not quite sure. We have a couple programs coming up. So the next 2 weeks, I know I won't be doing a live stream, but probably the third week I will. All right. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.